Spring training is officially less than a month away, and last week was a big one for the Diamondbacks. So let me catch you up to speed.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the D-backs every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your lifelong D-backs fan and overly obsessed host, Daynen Biggs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Today, we have a lot of big news to cover over the last week, one of which being that Ketel Marte is officially staying here with the Arizona Diamondbacks, not only for the rest of the offseason, but presumably for the rest of his contract, seeing as he will have veto rights to any trades. So that's exciting, in my opinion. We're also going to talk about people who are not going to be playing in Arizona this upcoming season, namely Jake McCarthy was recently traded to the Rockies, and we'll cover that as well. And we're also going to cover what still needs to happen in the less than 30 days leading up to the start of spring training. But to start things off, Ketel Marte is officially staying. I've been saying this since the rumors started to break. I don't think Ketel Marte is going anywhere. He's going to stay here, and he is not. The Diamondbacks are listening, but they're not actively shopping him around. They are not wanting to get rid of him, but they have a high price tag, and if somebody wants to meet that price, then they'd be open to listening. But I would share on the show, like, oh, I think if they were to trade him to the Mets, it would need to be this person and this person and this person, or if they want to trade him to this team or that team or whatever. And I get a lot of comments on those videos that say, that's ridiculous. Why would we ever do that? From fans of those teams. And my response is always, you're right. That would be a ridiculous trade for you. And it would be a very lopsided trade. But that was the only way that it was going to happen. And I feel vindicated saying that because Mike Hazen was asked about all this. And he said, yeah, we were asking crazy numbers, and we would talk to teams and they'd be like, I'd tell them what we need, what we'd want. And they just go, yeah, we can't do that. And he even said, I'm sure a lot of them hung up the phone and immediately went, those guys are crazy. Why would we do that? And but he did say that there were 4 teams that he was going back and forth with for a bit, but that nobody even came close, which I think is absolutely the case. I don't think any team would have done that or would have made an offer that would have made sense. I don't think the Red Sox were close. I don't think the Mets were close. I don't think any team that the rumors were going on about, the Tigers, I don't think any of them would have gotten close no matter what. And according to Mike Hazen, none of them did. So that's exactly what it's been. And I know the Diamondbacks do have like a little bit of a history of surprise transactions and surprise signings and things like that. But in this case, it would have been a surprise, but I didn't expect anything to happen. And lo and behold, nothing is going to happen with that. I do think, though, that the Diamondbacks, while they weren't keen on getting rid of Ketel Marte, I do think that they were keen on what they would have gotten for Ketel Marte. So I think they're like, listen, we don't want to get rid of him, but if you want him, put an offer together. And I think they were kind of maybe like salivating at that idea of like, ooh, all the pitchers we could get and all the prospects we could get. And, oh man, we'd be loaded, we'd be set. And so that, I think maybe they were like kind of excited about the potential of that. But I don't think anybody was rooting in the organization, was rooting for Ketel Marte to stay. And I don't think any of the players were rooting for Ketel Marte to leave either. I think that everybody wanted Ketel Marte to stay, including myself. And yeah, and all of the the rumors about being a bad teammate and being bad in the clubhouse. Excuse me, I'm allergic to rumors. Seem to kind of be not disproven, but shown that they have it's water under the bridge, if anything, and that everybody's kind of, everybody's good to go. So I'm excited to see Ketel Marte stay. I'm excited to see him put up more MVP caliber seasons, and I believe that he absolutely is able to do that. So super exciting to see that. With Ketel Marte staying, though, that I think has now narrowed the direction that Mike Hazen and the Diamondbacks are going to move in. We are not going to be looking to sign any big offense. We're not going to be like Alex Bregman, which we're going to talk about that in the next segment. We're not going to be looking to sign any big contracts with anybody, because it's not like we're going to be trading away Ketel Marte's big contract, which it's not. I mean, what is it? 19 million, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong. Or 12 to 19 million over the next couple of years. For him, that's not very much, but obviously that's a lot of money. So, so not moving him means we're committing to that, which means we can't really just afford to go signing a bunch of big people, even if it is like a pitcher or something. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think what we're going to be seeing is Mike Hazen making a lot of small transactions instead of any one big one. There were rumors, which we'll talk about later on as well, about Ranger Suarez signing him. I don't expect that to happen. But I do think that the Diamondbacks are going to be making a lot of small moves, potentially one or two medium-sized moves, but nothing crazy. But I do think that the majority of these moves are going to be for pitchers. And I don't think we're going to see any offense, really. We might see, I still really want to see us sign Paul Goldschmidt. I think that'd be phenomenal. I think that would be great. I think it would be, one, the team needs it. Two, I think that they'd make their money back in merch sales and jersey sales and everything. So I think that would be smart. But aside from that, I mean, I feel like we have third base covered. Even the outfield we kind of have covered. There's been some talk about Ryan Waldschmidt, who is our top prospect. He's an outfielder, about him joining the majors, which we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, about him making the starting rotation, or the starting lineup, which it would be a little bit of a stretch, but I think he potentially could make it. And so anyway, we have some interesting options ahead of us. Is what I'm saying. Now that we know that Ketel Marte is staying, we now know roughly where we are going in the future. And that is signing pitchers, and not big name pitchers either. But I think the Diamondbacks have shown, or the history has shown, that when the Diamondbacks focus on depth instead of all-stars, like a few all-stars here and there, when they focus on depth, that's when they win divisions. That's when they do well. So I'm excited about that. Anyway, we have to talk about Jake McCarthy getting traded to the Rockies and who we got for him, because I'll just say there's a lot to talk about. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll get a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel.com, an official sports book partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. And we're back, and I want to say, as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Now, it was reported 2 days ago now, 2 days ago, that Jake McCarthy was getting traded to the Colorado Rockies for a pitching prospect. Right-handed, and let's get that specific. Let's see. Right-handed pitcher, Josh Gross. Gross, Gross. Grosz. Gross, I think is how it's pronounced. And I didn't recognize him. I look him up and see that he's very early into his career. He's only 23 years old. And his last season, he's only finished his season in high A. This last season was in high A. And didn't have a wonderful season in New York, because he was traded to the Rockies at the trade deadline, I believe. And but in New York, he had a 4.14 ERA. So not great. And then in Colorado, in 7 starts, he put up a 5.87 ERA. So not very good either. But he does have a lot of potential. He shows a lot of good stuff. He has a lot of swings and misses, a bunch of strikeouts. He's 6'4", so he's a big, tall guy with a fastball in the mid-90s. And it has a lot of, has a lot of really good potential. And Mike Hazen seems to be excited about him, and brings up the new assistant GM, Jeremy Bleish, who is a pitching expert, pitching development expert. But Hazen says he's got good stuff, talking about Gross. I think the biggest thing for us, he's a big kid. He's got good stuff. He's up to 95 miles per hour. We're going to try to look at his arsenal and find ways to maximize as best we can, bringing the new assistant GM, Jeremy Bleish, on board. All these are the types of bets that I'm looking to take in terms of giving him guys to kind of work with and build with. So it almost seems like I wonder how much Bleish had to do with this trade. If he said, hey, who do you think, who do you see in these organizations as, I can fix that, or I can improve on that. And if he saw Gross and was like, okay, yeah, the Rockies, the Yankees, they're missing the point with this kid. Like, he's this big kid, he throws fast and he gets a lot of strikeouts, and they're focusing on all the wrong stuff. I can take that and turn it into something great. If that's the case, then oh boy, am I excited. I would love it if that were the case, and it very well may be. But it sounds like that's kind of going to be the attitude moving forward, at least for the time being, is while we still don't have a ton of money, we're going to sign a bunch of players. Like, we're going to patch holes in the current lineup and in the bullpen and in the starting rotation and everything. But really, it feels like what Mike Hazen is doing is he's working for 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030. And he's gathering the pieces to put together a killer team for 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And that's fine, because also the Diamondbacks do really well when they have that chip on their shoulder and people are like, yeah, they're not competing this year, they'll compete next year. And then they compete this year, So that doesn't worry me too much, the fact that seems to be the priority, especially because we do have a pretty darn good team right now. But anyway, another player who is not going to be playing in Arizona this year is Alex Bregman, who signed a contract with the Chicago Cubs on January 10th, so 2 days ago, for $175 million over 5 years, which I did the math on my phone right before this. That is $35 million a year. He would have been by far the most expensive player on our team, and he wouldn't have been the best player on our team, which, don't get me wrong, Alex Bregman is a fantastic baseball player, and honestly, Ketel Marte is worth way more money than he's getting paid, but that definitely puts him out of our budget. And I would be curious to know if the Diamondbacks made an offer at all, and to see what that would have been. I imagine they would have said, "Hey, we'll do a 6 or maybe even a 7-year contract, but you'll only be making $25 million a year." And I wonder, like, that would have been a stretch, don't get me wrong, but that feels like something that Ken Kendrick might have been able to say, like, "Oh yeah, let's do that, and let's include deferred payments and things like that." I could see that potentially of happening, but this right here says, "Oh yeah, no, I don't think we were really gonna make that happen," which is unfortunate because it sounds like he wanted to sign here. He wanted to play at home. And there is potentially he was willing to give Arizona a little bit of a discount, but it would have had to be ridiculously a huge discount because 175 over 5 years is crazy high. So good for him. Seems like a good guy, assuming, he doesn't cheat anymore or didn't cheat. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But there we go. So Alex Bregman is officially out of the discussion, which is fine by me because I didn't think that was going to happen in the first place. And I said many times that it wasn't going to happen, and I'm glad to not be proven wrong. Another player that is not going to be playing here is relief pitcher Pierce Johnson, who just signed with the Reds, 34 years old. He's played a good deal. He's a curveball specialist. He played 65 games with Atlanta, pitching a 3.05 ERA. It's pretty darn good. The Braves declined a $7 million club option for this last year. And I'm trying to find his any contract details, but I'm not seeing anything at the moment. But that begs the question. It's another relief pitcher that fits into our budget and the kind of pitcher that we wanted, and we don't have him anymore. But I don't know, maybe he was not even somebody the Diamondbacks were looking at, and where that goes. There is this article on heavy.com suggests that maybe the Diamondbacks could sign somebody like Seranthony Dominguez, who is predicted to get like a 2-year, $18 million deal, which is right there, or according to Fangraphs would be a 2-year, $16 million deal. So we're looking at $8 to $9 million a year. Not bad. Other people on this list: Michael Kopech, Luke Jackson, Rafael Montero, or Jose Leclerc, Jose Leclerc, I've been saying for a long time, is probably somebody the Diamondbacks ought to sign. I think he would actually fit in very well. But it does, it seems like we're losing time, or like, we're running out of time to sign people. But at the same time, there are still a lot of options. There's still a lot of ways to go. And oftentimes it's the people that get signed right before spring training that like end up being the difference makers. For example, like Shelby Miller, we signed him right before or during spring training. He ended up being one of our best relief pitchers. So as far as, getting the best bang for your buck, I think the Diamondbacks are kind of in that, okay, well, we'll let everybody that's gonna get $10 million or more, let's let other teams sign them because there's a very good chance they're not gonna do very well anyway. And then let's sign a bunch of people for like $1 million each right at spring training, and most of them aren't gonna turn out, but if we sign 10 of them and 2 or 3 of them are gonna turn out, and then we're good. And they don't even need to be wonderful, because if they're just average and they're able to eat innings and, you know, not blow 29 games in a season, then, we only spent a few million on the whole batch, so not too bad. Anyway, I'm kinda bleeding into the next segment here, so let's sorry, I'm allergic to organization, apparently. But let's go ahead and talk about what the Diamondbacks still need to do in the next 30 days before spring training starts. So the group, if we're looking at the list of everything that the Diamondbacks need in 2026, they still need uh bullpen depth. They still need a one or two reliable starting pitchers to include in addition to who they already have. One at least, but two would be great. They still need a first baseman. Right now, Pavin Smith is our first baseman, and sometimes Tim Tawa, I guess. And then third baseman, I don't know how badly we need a third baseman, though now that Jake McCarthy is out of the picture, we probably will see people like Blaze Alexander or Jordan Lawler playing outfield a bit more often. There are reports that Lawler is going to be seeing a lot of outfield reps going into spring training. So our outfield may be fine, but our outfield will really be fine if we get somebody at third base who can take over that role and leave Blaze Alexander and Jordan Lawler to play utility roles, which sometimes they'll need to play second base, sometimes they'll need to play shortstop, sometimes they'll need to play left field or center field, and that's fine if so long as they can do that. Which Blaze Alexander, I'd feel confident seeing him in any of those positions. Jordan Lawler, I would like to see a little bit more of him in the outfield, and see his defense kind of sharpen up a little bit. So we'll see how he does in spring training. I'm super excited to see how he does. I I'm so happy. I'm so happy that spring training happens here, and that we get to like physically be a part of that. So that's something that's pretty cool. So if you're in Arizona, and you're a baseball fan, like that's pretty great. The fall league was fun as well. Though spring training, you're getting the major league players, so that's cool. Um, so bullpen number one, starting rotation, a little bit of depth there. First baseman, and then either a third baseman or another outfielder. Which if Ryan Waldschmidt comes in and does the job, then that's cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ryan Waldschmidt actually, because let's just kind of break down his own. The thing about Ryan Waldschmidt is he's still in Double A, which makes me a little bit nervous, but his numbers in Double A were not bad. 18 home runs, 79 or 78 RBIs, a batting average of 289, so very close to that 300 mark. And on base percentage of 419. So pretty darn good if I can be honest. So I think for him, what it really depends on is if we are lacking depth in the outfield and he has a good spring training and he shows that he can rub elbows the um with the other major league players. then yeah, I think that he might be it. But he and Daniel Egan, pitcher, were awarded the Diamondbacks minor league player and pitcher of the year. So these two are definitely, like, those two we're definitely going to be seeing at some point. And it'd be cool if we saw them this season. I don't know. Daniel Egan, I believe, is also in Double A, which would put him still at, still at a year or two out. But outside of Waldschmidt, we're still looking at the outfield. We have Corbin Carroll and Alec Thomas, which I think now that we've traded Jake McCarthy, I believe Alec Thomas is probably going to be staying. I don't think we're going to be trading him unless we can find another outfielder either in that trade or in another trade. But that's probably going to be the case. And then in left field, I think we're going to have Blaze Alexander or Jordan Lawler, or maybe Tim Tawa. He can also play outfield as well. And then Ryan Waldschmidt will probably have a chance here and there to come in and get some reps in the outfield and behind the plate as well. Because we've seen Jordan Lawler, who had spectacular numbers in AAA, really struggle in the majors. And then same with Blaze Alexander, who had very good numbers in the minors and had a pretty good start in the majors. But I think once they figured out he couldn't hit a curveball, once other pitchers figured that out, they just started throwing him curveballs over and over again, and he couldn't hit those. So hopefully he's kind of turned a corner with that. And then from there, third base, I think that Eugenio Suarez is not off the table. We'd likely be spending about $20 million a year on him. There's a rumor that he may sign a 2-year, $40 million contract with the Diamondbacks, which is doable, but it's a bit steep, especially for a role that, like, we need, but we don't need, So we'll see how that goes. But again, I think signing Paul Goldschmidt is a great way to get a lot of butts and seats, sell a lot of jerseys, and get the fan base excited about this next year. I think after this year, I think it's not going to be too hard to get the fan base excited. I think we're going to have a lot going for us at the end of this season, and at the beginning of next season, we'll have a whole new offseason to go. The amount of free agents that we have leaving this next season is not as much as we did this last season. And we'll have, going into 2027, we'll have Corbin Burns. We're going to have Merrill Kelly. We're going to have Fott and Nelson. Eduardo Rodriguez, I believe, is a free agent, but that's probably fine. That sounds bad. That's probably fine. And we'll have a lot of opportunities to grow the team even further with one more offseason. So I think the fan base is going to be ready to go after that. But this season, one really great way, I think, to get fans excited is to bring back Paul Goldschmidt. And if we could sign him for $5 to $7 million, then that would definitely be in our budget. That'd get us a right-handed first baseman, which Paul Goldschmidt would platoon off of Pavin Smith. Paul Goldschmidt didn't have a fantastic year against right-handed pitchers, but he had an amazing year against left-handed pitchers. And then Pavin Smith had a fairly fine season against left-handed pitchers, but a really good season against right-handed pitchers. So yeah, you platoon them, and we have somebody at first base every single day and somebody who can hit really well against whoever is pitching. So that would be a pretty darn good setup for us moving into that. But I'm looking at spottrack.com right now. Another one that could potentially sign here is Zach Gallen. I'd be a bit steep right now. Spot-Track is estimating him at about $18 to $19 million a year. So that would be kind of steep, but to have him back here would definitely be that would be nice. I definitely wouldn't complain with that. Suarez, but the other thing is Suarez, according to Spot Track, is worth about 15 million a year, which that's definitely a lot more in our budget. So, but this also is not, I mean, this is proven to be not correct time and time again. So, but this is just a rough estimate. Paul Goldschmidt currently estimated at about 7 million. So we will see. But I think that I think there's still a lot of time between now and when pitchers and catchers report, and then a lot of time before the spring training games actually start, and when the rest of the team reports, and when needs start. Like, we have all that time to meet all the needs that we have. So I am still pretty optimistic in what the front office is going to put up. And I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from Jake McCarthy, but I always knew we weren't going to get much from him. And so, if Gross, this pitcher that we get, does end up developing into a really big pitcher, a really good way, then it's a steal and it's great. But either way, it's going to be a few years out. So, so again, if they can get into this season and through this season, if they can compete, if they can make the playoffs, wonderful. And if they can really make some noise, and these players that we have can really kind of find their own, then we go into 2027, all cylinders firing, everything cooking, hoping we actually have a 2027 season. And I think that them and the fan base will really be excited. So anyway, that is the show. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Be sure to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're on YouTube as well as every other place you get your podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at my website, slackshack.tv. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.